Following the recent drone and missile attack by Iran on Israel, tensions in the region have reached a critical point, with Jerusalem engulfed in sirens and explosions. The long-standing covert conflict between Iran and Israel has sparked fears of further escalation. Sudarshan World has sought perspective from defense expert Major General Abhay Karki. Thank you so much for your time. He is joining us here live for Sudarshan World. Also, we have from Tel Aviv live joining us Lieutenant Colonel Avital. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. And you see, Jerusalem and to understand what's exactly happening in Israel and what Iran has done to Israel, it was a shocking event. It happened all of a sudden. But Avital, you wanted to discuss about what exactly happened that day. Why Iran decided to attack Israel all of a sudden, and that too, it was a massive reaction. Though the missiles were intercepted, the drones were intercepted, but was a damage done? Was some sort of damage done to Israel because of Iran? Right, we want to know from you because you would be knowing better about the situation on ground in Israel.
Right. So last night was a very, very dramatic night in Israel. Iran fired more than 300 different types of weapons, whether it was explosive drones, whether it was missiles or cruise missiles, from its own territory. And this has been really unprecedented. In the last decades, Israel has spent a lot of investment in developing and actually procuring different defense systems, air defense systems. And I think the fact that 99%, actually it's between 97 to 99% of these targets have been intercepted by Israel, but also by other members of countries in the area and Western countries who support Israel. I think this is a very loud and clear message, not only to Iran, but to the neighbors, the enemies that Israel has surrounding it, about its capabilities to handle these kind of threats. Now, this is not something new. Iran's wanting to get rid of Israel, wipe Israel off the map, to make sure Israel does not exist, is not a new thing. In order to do that, Iran surrounded Israel with proxies. For example, Hezbollah, which is the biggest one and the more dominant one in Lebanon, giving ammunition to Hezbollah for many, many years. Of course, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and the Houthis in Yemen. So altogether, all these proxies kept on targeting Israel for the last decades. Last night was dramatic because for the first time, Iran actually itself chose to fire from its own territory. And this is something, of course, that Israel now is considering which way to react, when and how. This is right now on the government's table.
Okay, all right. So, Major General Karki, you have been monitoring the situation. You have seen it was such a massive attack. And the problem is this, that Israel is already in a conflict with Gaza. Already there's a situation, very tense situation. There's a war that is already going on there. And though Iran has been using proxies, whether you call any militant organization, any terrorist organization that is not directly engaged. Iran was not directly engaged in a war with Israel, but this kind of reaction by Iran. Iran is not a very small country. It has powerful weapons. It has a very good drone technology, and it can use missiles also. So how do you think this is going to escalate? Because Israel will not stay down and will not take it lightly.
Thank you, Shivam, for calling me on your show, and I welcome our foreign guest as well. Last evening's attack on Israel by Iran through 301 various types of weapon systems, drones, missiles, the triggering was known and it was expected. Warnings had gone out. Even Indian government has given a warning not to for tourists not to visit Israel and Iran. So the tension was growing up, and the trigger was in Damascus when Israelis hit embassy of Iran or consulate of Iran, where two of their senior officers got killed. So I think there was a lot of pressure on Iran government to do something, a local pressure, and maybe it is also that the Iran itself is going through a kind of a resistance from anti-hijab forces and others, and the government wanted to show that it is doing something, and they were under pressure to do it. So they did launch tit for tat, I would say, because before also, and the fact remains that Iran has been arming the proxies and waging the war with Israel through its proxies, the three H's as we call it, the Houthis, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, and of course the Islamic Jihad. So it has been carrying on for a while, and uh, as per the Israeli thought process, the masterminds of this, as for Israel, is Iran. The generals of Iran were coordinating it, and they were being targeted so as to hit back at the supporters of the direct confrontationists, the three H's who were being supported, as were Iran. Therefore, Iran territory was not being hit by Israel, but the proxies and the generals were being hit at various places outside of Iran. But this time, when the Damascus embassy was hit by Israel Air Force, Iran has said that an embassy is my territory, and they took it as an attack on Iran. And therefore, they have done, as they state, it was a tit for tat, and they don't have any more plans for attacks on Israel unless Israel decides to retaliate. Now, Israel, as we know, is a very hard nut to crack, and the world is looking to see how and when Israel chooses to retaliate.
Yeah,
The
do you think do we
world
think
at
Israel?
large
Yeah,
is
yeah.
not very keen that the escalatory.
Okay, but Avital, because it's a massive attack, but if you look at the picture, the large picture, the bigger picture is this: that the casualties. We want to know: was there any sort of casualty reported? Because we got to know nothing was done, no big harm was done to Israel. Because, but the attack was a massive attack. It was intercepted. God forbid it was some other country, the damage would have been a big damage to any other country. So how is Israel going to respond? Are you going to escalate this? You're going to respond in a similar manner or in a more powerful manner, or you'll take it in a diplomatic way? Like, let's it's okay, Iran is saying that we have taken our revenge, though nobody has been killed or something like that. Is Israel going to take it that way or no?
So first of all, launching an attack of 300 different kinds of weapons, rockets and drones to Israel is a disproportionate attack. So the fact that no one was killed has nothing to do with the size of the attack. It has to do with the Israeli capability to defend its people. So I don't buy that kind of statement that nobody was killed and Israel should stay quiet and not respond. Israel is acting according to its own interest. And the number one interest for Israel is to defend the Israeli people, the Israeli home, the Israeli country. I do want to say and mention, it's important to mention that there was a broad coalition fighting against Iran last night. The US and the UK and France and Jordan, they were all joining hands, arms, ammunition systems, interception systems, jets and other means in order to help intercept the Iranian attack. So this also has a significant meaning. And overall, look, the topic of Iran is back on the table. It hasn't been on the table for years and years. Israeli officials, Israeli government kept on speaking about it at UN General Assemblies, in meetings with leaders all over the world, but the world kept silent most of the years. And the
Yes.
big question I think we need to ask is how will the world now look at Iran just a short time before it will maybe become a nuclear state? And this is, I think, what we need to look for when we are moving forward thinking about Iran.
Because when Iran says that they have attacked your air bases, and they call it an achievement, yeah, definitely there's no casualty on the Israel side. But attacking air bases, a 10-year-old girl, that's all they have hit. And we are sorry for that also. We Indians, we show our support to Israel because you are fighting a war on many fronts. So this can be much more damaging Because if you start a war again with Iran, don't you think engaging on all the sides will be a difficult task for Israel? Because you're already in a war with Gaza, and that's the right thing to do, because they have invaded, they tried to invade your country and attack and kill innocent women and children. But this time, don't you think there should be some other way also? Because if Iran is getting engaged with you, don't you think you need support from some other country? Because US at some point it shows support, and other point it says no, we are not. We rather prefer that you should de-escalate, or you should diplomatically solve the issue. What do you think? What kind of action should Israel take? Should it be a diplomatic one or a direct military action?
So there are quite a few options to relate to Iran. Not everything needs to be said, but you can imagine that between going all out to a full war to not doing anything, there's a whole array of different kinds of activities which Israel could do. Some could be public and some could be not public. Some could be in Iran, some could be outside of Iran against Iranian
Okay.
targets. So Israel does
So,
have
so, so, so
very long
do I take it as a warning for Iran that you are saying right now? Something will happen in Iran, or something can be done outside Iran. So, are you possibly looking at hitting Iranian targets which are not in Iran, now further escalating this conflict? Because that was one of the reasons that Iran is claiming we have taken our revenge and we are satisfied with that. We don't want to escalate this. If Israel takes it further, then it should be prepared. Because if you want to escalate it, are you suggesting me that Israel might escalate this by attacking Iran's properties outside Iran?
What I'm saying is that not every retaliation has to be automatically translated to an escalation. And the Israeli cabinet is now meeting and taking decisions. As far as I know, there are many options on the table, and decision has not yet been taken. But the fact that Iran is allegedly saying those things, it's ridiculous. I'll remind you that in the 80s, Iran bombed a Jewish center near an embassy in Argentina, killing a huge number of people. And now it's preaching that about moral and values. So, we're not in this game. Iran is a cruel, vicious, terror-leading country which has a lot of impact, not only in the Middle East, but also in the world. And with regard to that, I think, again, the Western world needs to see what are the next steps to take towards Iran, so we will not find here a nuclear empire in a few months, maybe a few years.
Okay, so Major General Karki, you have been hearing her response, and I want to ask you, what side do you think United States is really on? At one point, it shows support. It acts like it's showing support, but it doesn't directly want to engage with Iran. But it's a fact that USA considers Iran a threat and Israel a friend also. But it's not opening, it's not clearly stating it that they want to fight for Israel or they want to go against Iran. So, what's the clear picture, if you can interpret for our guests?
Shivam, as we look at it, it's this way. The USA has been telling Israel that we will watch your back should you be attacked. Therefore, for anything as concerns defense of Israel when it is being attacked,
But
like
they have
last
been
night with
attacked. They
missiles,
have been attacked already.
yes. They will come to their aid. But should Israel go overboard and start attacking Iran per se and become offensive, at that stage, the US may not support Israel to the extent that it is doing now, or maybe it will stay neutral. So that is the kind of messaging that the US has been doing. For Israel, it is a matter of survival. They will do what they have to do. And for a long time, Israel has been worried about the
But
nuclear
Mr. Karki,
capability of
if
Israel,
I can
Iran.
summarize a bit from what if I can summarize a bit from what you are saying, had there been any casualties, or had there been a major damage from what Iran has done, these attacks, would there have been a direct US support then? Just suppose some people would have been killed. So that time, USA would have had a different reaction rather than what they are having right now, because there has been no casualty as being reported right now. So if there was some casualty sort of thing, then the US reaction would have been different.
Shivam, the reaction of a government depends upon the pressure of the local citizenry. Had there been major casualties in Israel because of this attack, the US public, the Jewish lobby in the USA, they would have exerted pressure and there might have been a rethink in the Biden government's policy. But as things stand today, it is the attack was negated with help from the friendly countries, as has been brought up by Avital, and a retaliation, the escalatory cycle between no war and to full war, as Avital said, there are many, many other overt, covert, said and unsaid actions that can be taken. You can take a leaf out of that, if I may say. The perception today is what India has done against the terrorism emanating from Pakistan. To that extent, let's leave it to the government of Israel to decide on how it hurts and where it hurts. I keep telling in your show time and again
True.
that the
True.
perpetrator will be
Perpetrators should
given
be brought
a blow where
they
it
should be
knows
brought
it
to justice.
hurts.
They should be brought to justice, and we are supporting Israel for that, because Israel, they did not start a war with Hamas, though they are in a place, they are surrounded by many Muslim countries, and Iran is also a Muslim country, and the escalation can go further. But Avital, if I want to ask you this, that Iran has said if you escalate this, there will be further military actions. Plus, they have taken into account US also and threatened that US bases will also be attacked if US took part in any Israeli retaliation. Is this the reason why US is backtracking from its vows, though it should be supporting Israel and it's not openly coming up in the front and acting as a defender of Israel? Though Israel does not need any defender, but still, you should be having some diplomatic help or military help from some other country too.
Well, with all respect to what Iran is saying, the Israeli interest at the end of the day is what matters. And the Israeli interest is time and time again to make sure that the only country of the Jewish people, Israel, is well defended. This is the only country we have. We have no choice but to make sure our people are safe. And you're right, there are challenges. I'm not saying it's easy. We are engaged in a bitter war since October 7th, where we lost 1,200 civilians. We have 133 hostages still held somewhere underground in Gaza. And as you know, this is not the first time that Hezbollah has attacked us since October 8th. They've attacked us in many years in the past. We're looking already at more than 3,000 rockets that were fired from Lebanon 6 October and more than 10,000 rockets fired from Hamas. So I think that at the end of the day, the interest is Israeli.
But Avital, Hamas firing rockets and Iran firing rockets are two different things. The technology is different. Hamas firing rockets and Iran firing rockets and using drones is a big difference of technology. If I want to add a few points from Mr. Karki, just for the perspective, the military perspective, Mr. Karki, if there were no defense systems as good as Israel has, and if the US help or UK help, as they say, was there in intercepting those missile attacks or drone attacks would not have been there, how big could have been the casualty figures? Mr. Karki, first from you, and then we'll come to Avitalji.
Yeah, Shivam, these same Iranian drones have been used in the Ukraine war as well, and you are well aware of the accuracy of these drones and the devastation that they caused. So, had Israel not got their Iron Dome and other air defense things in place, and they got 2-3 days of warning as well, things would have been pretty bad because these could have been guided, precision guided. Iran is also known to have hypersonic missiles, and 300 is a small part of Iran's arsenal. Now, a country which can export drones, export missiles to a country like Russia, and it is thanks to the Israeli air defense system, especially the Iron Dome, that they could negate any damage being done to them. And thank God that has helped in reducing the escalatory pressures on the Israeli government. And on the Iran side, the attack has taken the pressure off the Ayatollahs to do something. And even they, in their wisdom, would not want, because they know if the might of Israel falls on them after Iran-Iraq war, Iran has been quite worried.
But then, Mr. Karki, I think Iran must have thought about this. Iran must have thought of the possible retaliation that they are going to face after they have attacked. What do you think that should have encouraged them as some kind of support or some kind of pressure? Or it's merely a fact or merely the point that Iran wants to portray itself as a leader of the Muslim nations? Or is there something other? Is there some backup they are receiving? Are there many, like you can say, are there some other countries involved? Is China supporting? Is Russia supporting? If you can name those countries, are there some groups that are forming which are considering Israel a threat? And if Israel is a threat for them, US can be too, UK can be too, and God forbid, India can be too a threat for them. So what do you think? Some sort of encouragement Iran must have received from somewhere.
Uh, Iran is a very old civilization. Persian civilization evolved into Iran. I mean, unlike other warlords and all, they do have institutions and the capacity to think a situation through. So if you see in this attack, they have not attacked any US bases or assets, while they singularly targeted Israel territory. For the first time, they did not use proxies but themselves hit at Israeli territory. But in the bargain, they did not antagonize the US. That means at the back of the mind, they do not want a retaliation to come because the economy is not doing too well, and the sanctions will hit them bad, and even the blockades that will take place because of that if they involve the US and the other forces by hitting their this thing. So they have tried to keep in their wisdom, they must have wargamed it, but the internal pressure, the domestic pressure for them to do something after repeatedly Israel has been hitting and targeting their generals over the last 1 year, if you recollect, they had to do something. So they, in their wisdom, they have done something, advertised it, and got the.
In their wisdom, they have done a damage. But is the damage big for Israel? Because Avital, if I come to you, if I want to ask you this, as what I can understand from what you are saying, Israel will do what it has to do, and this attack might be a surprise one, or the Iranian interests can be attacked worldwide. So, according to you, has Iran made a really big mistake? Because Iran must have thought out some sort of plan, and they have imagined what retaliation Israel can do to them. Because you have the technology, you can retaliate back, and you have already done that. And Gaza is a perfect example, and Hamas is a perfect example of how powerful Israel is, already surrounded by dangerous countries, but still you are surviving. So do you think Iran has done a very major, big mistake?
Look, I agree with the general. I don't see a real interest of Iran to escalate to a full-scale war. And the reason I see that is according to the targets where they chose yesterday to fire. They went towards areas which are not civilian areas. In other words, they didn't aim to city centers in order to try and target population, because that would have for sure instigated a bigger, wider scale kind of war. But instead, they went to open areas. They said they're trying to hit military targets and so on. The question remains is that 300 plus targets emanating from Iranian soil, is this something that will bring back the peace and the quiet for the time being to Israel? And I'm not sure that is the answer, because many things are not obviously published. The Israeli intelligence is working 24/7. And as I said before, there are different ways Israel can act. And again, Israel is not alone. This was also, I think, quite a blow to the Iranians, because not only did they see the Israeli expertise, and it's one of its best days, and I'm sure this will be learned in historical books in the future, but they also saw that a wide coalition backed Israel in this, including Arab countries. So I think the message has been sent very loud and clear to Iran, and we'll see what the cabinet decides.
But Avital, don't you think the attack Iran has done, it was also symbolic? Just because by your statement, if I can interpret that, because you're saying,
not symbolic. 300 with explosive drones, with cruise missiles and ballistic missiles that can carry different kinds of warheads. This is not symbolic.
So you're not considering it as symbolic, and you will retaliate with equal power.
I'm saying that the cabinet will decide whether Israel will retaliate. Symbolic it is not. And show me another case in the world of such a massive drone attack at once. You will not
True.
find anything like it in the world.
But don't you think this will be another big challenge for Mr. Netanyahu, because he's already engaged in a war, and war is not a, it's not a very cheap job. You need money, you need resources, you need ammunition, you need people. It's a lot of engagement that is going on right now already in Israel. You are already in a war. Do you think there will be such a decision by the cabinet, which means more war, more attacks, more missiles, more drone attacks, and more using of the Air Force or the Army?
Look, I don't know what the cabinet will decide, and they're now meeting, but the issue of funding and money, this is not the issue, because when you put on a scales human lives on one hand and the funding and the cost on the one and the other hand, then obviously the human life always is more important. This is the values that we share, and this is the way Israel is considering its move. So I don't think that is an issue. The issue, of course, is other things in the region, other capabilities, how strong to have a retaliation, when to have the retaliation, how to have it, is it on Iranian soil or not? So there are many questions the cabinet is now dealing with, needing to reach some sort of a recommendation in the next couple of hours or maybe even days.
So there will be some sort of reaction, I think. In some ending words, Mr. Karki, if I would ask you, because you know the army and you might be getting a feeling about how there can be a possible reaction from Israel's side. Do you think, just as it was being said by Avital, there will be a diplomatic reaction, or the cabinet will decide, or things are going to escalate pretty soon? Will there be a bigger question? Will there be a bigger war?
Shivam, I would draw an analogy to human psychology. When you know a person's character from his past behavior and experiences, same is the case with a country. Israel has never taken it lying down. They'll not take it lying down now. Israel is known for overt as well as equally potent covert operations. Now, Israel and Iran are 1,800 kilometers apart, so there cannot be any land warfare or artillery barrages in retaliation. It has to be, if the other person is using proxies, you can hit the proxies. If he still continues, you hit the people who are handling the proxies, the handlers behind the proxies, and so the thing continues. It is not in Iran's interest or even in Israel's interest to raise the level of escalation, as also the Israel would be itching to get at the nuclear facilities of Iran, but that would be a really hard risk option for them. So retaliate they will, if we know Israel from their past experiences, and how is what the cabinet would decide, and the ladder between no war and full war, as Avital has said, we leave it to the wisdom of Israel, but hit back they will.
Let's leave it to the wisdom of the army and the defense forces. I thank you very much, Major General Abhay Karki, for joining us, and Lieutenant Colonel Avital, thank you so much for your time, and we hope the people of Israel remain safe, and our prayers are for you. May you win all the wars you're engaged in, and may there will be always a better day for Israel. Thank you so much. This was Shivam Dutt Mehta for Sudarshan World. I'll hope to see you again, once again, in this discussion where you are winning this war. Thank you so much.